What's up, friends, and welcome back to my channel. So I've talked a lot about sleep and all of the ways it's impacted by things like temperature, light, and even fasting. But what I haven't yet addressed is sound. And so in this episode, I'll be diving into the whole relationship between sleep and noise as I talk about my own month-long experiment using these QuietOn 3 earplugs for sleep. I do know that sound preferences can really vary for everyone. Some people can only sleep in dead silence, others need music, and then some amazing people out there can sleep pretty much anywhere regardless of the environment. But the point of the matter is this: if you are hypersensitive to noise and this affects your sleep in some way, with either going to sleep or even staying asleep, then I would probably recommend looking for a way to control your environment, because you shouldn't be waking up multiple times a night due to sound. Obviously, there are some pretty big exceptions to this, including on-call doctors and new parents, but for the most part, sleep should be pretty much uninterrupted, as this really does allow you to cycle through the different stages of sleep and wake up feeling more rested and recovered. And as I just mentioned, there are tons of different ways to control the sound environment in your bedroom, including things like earplugs. Now, Ben Greenfield talks about using them in his evening routine, which is partly what inspired me to look into using them as well. And a quick side note, if you haven't seen my friend Kyle Got Camera's amazing review of Ben's entire sleep routine, including an insane amount of CBD before bed, I highly recommend that you check that video out, and I'll include a link here and below in the description. But coming back to the earplugs, and for the purpose of this video, I'll be sharing with you my experience using these new active noise canceling earbuds by the company QuietOn. Now, this is their Model 3 version, which they claim to be the most effective and comfortable to wear at night. So I decided to give them a try, and full disclosure, the company did send me this pair to try out, but I have no affiliate ties to that company and they have no say in the content of this video. So that being said, I think we have to get the most important thing out of the way first, and that is price. These earbuds are around $250, which is very much on par with things like Bose and Apple prices, except these don't play music and they don't allow you to make calls. So then, who are these earbuds really designed for? And to be honest, I've been thinking very long and hard about this, and I think there is a very specific and probably small niche of people that would benefit from these particular earbuds. And so let's do kind of a process of elimination by starting with some larger categories and narrowing it down. So number one, you have to sleep. That is pretty much the majority of people, unless of course you have insomnia. Number two is you have to live in a noisy environment and have trouble sleeping because of it. Number three is the people who don't want to use foam earplugs or have tried them and they didn't work. Number four are the people who don't want to use a white noise machine. Number five are people who want a device that's EMF free. And then finally, number six are the people who don't really care about the price. So we whittle it down to a very, very small group of people. So if you do happen to fall into this category, then awesome. This video is probably for you. Keep watching. But then again, if you don't fall into this category, well, you still love me, and then keep watching, as I promise I'm going to make this exciting. I'm going to share my own data and experience after using them for a full month. Plus, I will give you a full breakdown of how they work, the comfort and design of these earplugs, of course, the pros and cons, and then how they compare to some of the cheaper options on the market, including the sleep phones, which are actually a headband I'm trying out right now that lets you listen to music while you sleep. So let's begin with a quick overview of what you get and how this device actually works. So when you open up the box, you'll see this product comes with a case, a charging cable, and 4 different sets of foam tips, ranging from extra small to large. So there's a lot of options here depending on the size of your ears. I gotta say, I was pretty impressed by just how small these earbuds are. I mean, for reference, this is how they compare in size to my Apple AirPods. Now, when it comes to setup, it's also pretty straightforward. You slide the earbuds in, rotate them backwards in your ear to look like this, and then you just wait a few seconds to let the foam tip expand and create a proper seal. And then that's it. There's no on button or Bluetooth connection to pair. So long as they're charged in the case when you pull them out, they're good to go. So knowing that there's no connection or signal, then how does this technology actually work? And to answer that, we have to look at what these earbuds are actually doing, because they're not simply canceling out all noise like you would get from a Bose or Apple device. Instead, what they do is attenuate or dampen background sounds, specifically those low frequency, kind of annoying sounds like snoring and street noises. And they do this by combining both passive and active noise canceling technology. You see, there's actually a microphone, really small one, built into the base of the bud, the part that sticks out of your ear, which is picking up on all the different sounds in your environment. So from there, the small electronics built inside the earbud then convert that sound wave into a new phase shifted sound that's played back into your ears through a very small speaker to create a more quiet and neutralized sound, hence the name QuietOn. Now, granted, this technology has been around for quite some time, so it's not like they're reinventing the wheel here. They've just figured out a way to fit it into a very small package that can also last up to 28 hours if it's fully charged. And just in case you guys are nerdy and want to learn a little bit more, I will include a link in the description below to read a little bit more on their particular active noise canceling technology. So moving on to comfort and design. And I have to admit, these are probably the most comfortable earbuds I've ever worn to bed, which they better be at that price. But in all honesty, the foam tip was really soft and flexible, and it was nice to have a couple different sizing options to try until I found the one that fit my ear to a T. And surprisingly, they also didn't fall out in the middle of the night while sleeping like the foam ones typically do. I've also tried those silicone earplugs, and even though you do get a really firm seal with those, I personally can't really seem to wear them to bed because for whatever reason, I feel like they amplify those weird mouth noises you make at night. Maybe it's just me, but I personally find that really distracting. So yes, the QuietOn definitely hit that mark for me on the comfort and the size, but I am also planning to review the Sleep Phones device for a comparison. And granted, it is a totally different form factor. We're talking an acoustic headband versus an earbud, and one that's also a hell of a lot cheaper, like $200 cheaper. But I'm curious to see how the two devices compare when it does come to improving my sleep, which conveniently leads me to my sleep scores and what happened to my data after using this device for nearly a month. And the short answer is nothing, but let me explain. So I looked back at both my Oura Ring and Dreem 2 data from my time spent wearing this device and compared it to my data from the month before when I wasn't using it. Now, according to my Oura Ring, nothing really changed in terms of metrics when I added these earbuds to my sleep routine. My total sleep time was nearly identical, as were my latency, deep sleep, light sleep, and REM sleep scores. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do live in a pretty quiet area, so I'm not entirely surprised to see that these earbuds had like a net neutral effect on my sleep. They didn't really make it any better, but they also didn't make it any worse. So there's that. Now, regarding the Dreem 2, I did see similar trends for most of my sleep stats, except this time there were some slightly larger differences in terms of deep and REM, sleep onset, and total sleep time. So as you guys will see here, I saw a dip in my deep sleep scores by about 3%, but my average REM scores increased by 3% during the night spent with the earbuds on. It also appears that when I was wearing them, it did take me a little bit longer to fall asleep, about 5 to 6 minutes on average, and my total sleep time went up significantly by nearly an hour on average with the earbuds versus the time spent without them. Now, of all the stats, I think it's fair to say the total sleep time one is probably most compelling, as an hour difference is a pretty big chunk of time. Now, the only thing I can attribute to this is that my fiance gets up between 4 and 5, and since I tend to be a lighter sleeper, well, I usually get up around the same time if I hear him getting out of bed. But when I had the earbuds in, I didn't really hear him get up, and so I was able to sleep in a little bit longer. But again, the total quality of my sleep didn't really change by much, just the duration. So that being said, let's move on to the pros and the cons. And for starters, I'd say these earbuds definitely over-deliver on both size and comfort. I had absolutely no problem sleeping with them in, and they didn't fall out whether I was laying on my back, my side, or my stomach. And when it comes to size, I did find it helpful to have so many options to choose from. Now, my ears are pretty small, so I went with their smallest option, and I was surprised it did feel kind of like a custom fit, so definitely a huge plus on that. I was also impressed that the whole thing is Bluetooth free and doesn't require any app downloads or phone connections. It is a very low profile device that's very convenient for traveling, and especially a great option if you are looking for active noise canceling but don't want to have to deal with all the concerns of EMFs. Now, on to the downside. These are not entirely noise canceling, so do not expect the sound quality of what you might get from a pair of Apple AirPods or Bose headphones. Simply not that. You will still hear some faint noise in the background, and fortunately, I actually had the chance to test this out on the snoring front when I was staying with a friend recently. So my experience with them is the first night of using them, I found that the buds didn't really block out the snoring enough for me. So I actually switched over to my AirPods in the middle of the night to basically help drown out the sound. Now, granted, we were traveling, it was a new bed, might have just been the first night sort of thing, but that was my experience. Fast forward to the second and third night of using them, and I actually was able to sleep much more soundly with the QuietOn buds and only woke up a few times, maybe once or twice, to the very faint sound of snoring. Again, I can be a very light sleeper, and I do typically sleep with white noise in the background. So maybe it just took some getting used to this different sound environment, but definitely something to note if you're planning to buy these for the purposes of snoring mitigation. I also had a couple of small nitpicks about the device's design itself, and I'm not entirely sure why they had to include such a bright white light on the box, which is a little bit disturbing on the eyes when you open and close it at night. And the small left and right indicator that they included on each bud is honestly way too small to read, even in broad daylight. And finally, let's circle back to this whole idea of price. In my personal opinion, for what you're getting here, I do think that they are grossly overpriced. They don't play music, and they don't completely cancel out all the sounds around you. So it's definitely hard for me to personally justify this price. That being said, I'm sure there are some people who have tried everything out there and still struggle with sound interruptions at night. So maybe for those people, this is worth a shot. If you do travel a lot and you don't easily have access to white noise as an option, that's also maybe something worth looking into. I just don't see this being a necessary device for the everyday consumer. And I know for me, seeing that my own sleep quality didn't really improve while wearing them is enough to convince me that they're really not a must-have device in my life right now. So that is my honest take on the QuietOn 3 sleep buds. And if you don't know, I'm actually doing a series of different YouTube live events with some fellow collaborators and thought leaders in the industry. So make sure you stay tuned to that. I'll be announcing those on my channel. You can also check out the calendar on my website, katietypea.com/events. And until next time, you guys know the drill. Make sure if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and click on that subscribe button. It really doesn't take that much effort to hit the button or give it a big thumbs up. It really does help grow this channel so I can produce more and exciting content for you guys. And I thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Even if you had no interest in buying these, just your support really does mean the world. So I love you guys, and until we meet again, I cannot wait to catch you on the next one.